Welcome everyone to another video here today about Apple's independent repair program stuff. We discussed some details already in previous videos, also App Store, not amazing, notarization, snake oil stuff, and failing Macs, MacBook Pros, glued-in batteries, not supported MacBook Pro with firmware updates a decade ago, latest and greatest totally overpriced Mac Pros, and all the other fun stuff. And also huge fans of repair here. Like often you don't even get a repair at Apple. For example, they might only swap full logic boards here of Apple goodness. And a fun fact, even back in the day, decades ago, 2003 or so, they had already failing GPUs overheating and maybe BGA soldering joints cracking or stuff like that. So recurring theme at Apple for decades, which is also a previous video why we don't buy them anymore, especially not overpriced Mac Pros, which is why we previous video there on that corner build our own Mac Pro replacement as in AMD Ryzen and desktop Linux stuff. But if you look at this, there are still so many users who think Apple is their friend and stuff, but no, they're not your friend. Not even developers. For us, they only charge 30% and make our life harder. Previous videos, so they basically support us with nothing. You could say, yeah, they give you Xcode, which, yeah, we could also use any other compiler. It's GCC, LVM, Clang anyway. And nobody asks them to take 30% of our profit, and software developers shipped software fine for decades. So in my opinion, they basically just grab 30% of services, which they even make hard to use, constantly implement new review guidelines of, yeah, you can't do that, you can't do this, you need to sandbox it, you need to save as dialog, and basically totally wasting the time with hard to use services that sometimes fail, even notarization sometimes not working anyway. So on the hardware side, you've also probably seen, or if you're new to the stuff, then let me explain that Apple is also not really repairing this, right? So if something is broken, all they do is swap the whole logic board, and also totally overcharging you, even often for years telling you you're holding it wrong, you're overheating it wrong, you're thermal throttling it wrong. And so also they do not do component level repairs. So even if you could fix something for a $5 component with 1 hour of labor or something, they still will sell you the whole board for 700 euro or 1000 euro, even stuff like this. Even the keyboard, the failing keyboard of the butterfly mechanism, I think they, if it's out of warranty, they charge enormous amounts because it is so labor intense and maybe even needs a whole top cover because of 70 small breaking plastic glued, I don't know, something of that sort. Anyway, also because they always swap it, they do not back up your data. So if your thing is completely broken, especially on the new ones with soldered SSD, you cannot just simply swap it. And then a service like Louis Rossmann or others, independent repair people, might be the only option to have it repaired, not only much more affordable, but also with your data potentially intact. A service that Apple makes very clear you never get your stuff back with your data because logic board swap and other stuff. So there is a huge market for that, especially considering how Apple operates and what kind of services they provide and stuff. So this independent repair of the huge movement, which I consider myself a little bit at least advocating for and shouting out here and totally supporting, also much more environmentally friendly to component level repairs than throwing whole logic boards away, certainly. And so there is this, Apple announced some months ago this independent repair program, and of course everything secretive because Apple, and also made this video of terms and services some weeks ago of when you use the App Store, totally secretive in the end probably. So now here, according to some wise motherboard website stuff, they got some details here, and the details are as horrible as you would think of. You need to sign their all your rights away It's hilarious. So what are we talking about? We are talking about ordering components like not even some GPU of ATI fame or IBM, I guess, or Freescale. Probably this was actually Freescale. Old crap. I don't have new crap lying around here. So we are talking about components like some power. Here's also ATI. Anyway, we're talking about components like iPhone batteries or SMCs or other battery charge controllers, and which sometimes Apple is so evil, like the ZIL, whatever, they even in previous times you could order this at DigiKey or Mouser or Final One or wherever, or as components or the other stores. But Apple, being Apple, they allegedly, I heard, they have some very tiny modification, like maybe even just as simple as a name or changing a pin or whatever, the usual secretive Apple stuff. And then you can't, and then they tell the manufacturer this other Apple SKU of only one pin changed or some register number of vendor ID, you only sell to us and you do not make this integrated circuit available to anyone else. Although it is like entirely the same, only the name changed, the pin changed, like total vendor login garbage. And so talking about such components, and for this normally it should be as easy as like ordering a resistor, ordering a capacitor, or ordering a coil, or ordering any other of those components should be easy. I mean, they are totally dirt cheap, right? Most of these components like only cost a cent or so in volume. You order this for your own FPGA board or other production, and yeah, super small SMD resistor, certainly less than a fraction of a cent. If you order the spoils of thousands and 10,000 and stuff. So of course a charge controller might cost $1 or $2 and so on, and certainly Freescale, PowerPC and ATI mobile radio and stuff a little bit more pricey. But such components, or a battery for $9.99. And keeping this in mind, that it is completely normal for a repair. You repair a fridge, your car, brakes, oil filter, like all the stuff. And so much too, it's for the security of the children, the brakes on your car, right? You can service the brakes and potentially exploding internal combustion engine. You can order all the engine parts at your favorite car dealer, but you can't order a bloody charge controller because it's for the safety of the children. Anyway, so if you sign this agreement here, according to this leaked details apparently, authorized repair partners, so-called independent repair, also authorized, they can only swap components, right? So it's long known in the industry already that if you are an authorized Apple repair, you can only offer what Apple wants you to offer, like whole logic board swaps. The headphone jack, where is even the headphone jack here, like something of that sort, headphone or charge port is broken, you're not allowed to swap it because they are only full logic board swaps, because they're for the safety of the children or something, except new iPhones don't even have a headphone jack anyway. So now it turns out that this program has like totally devastating limitations of they obtained a copy allegedly there, and it contains terms that lawyers and repair advocates describe as onerous and crazy, in terms that could give Apple significant control over the business that choose to participate. And so basically making your independent repair like you can't do most of the things that you would want to do, because now you're like totally Apple controlled, in terms of, in order to join the program, contract states independent repair shops must agree to unannounced audits, inspections by Apple, which are intended to be, at least in part, search for and identify use of prohibited repair parts, which Apple can impose fines for. And if they leave the program, Apple reserves the right to continue inspecting. So yeah, you leave the program, you cancel it because you have garbage terms and Apple doesn't deliver and crappy parts and whatnot, and limiting your freedom, can't do what you want. And even then, when you leave, reserves the rights to continue inspecting your freaking repair shop for 5 years after. So 5 freaking years. I mean, first of all, this is already hilarious terms, like you order freaking components. Why should the supplier of your freaking components have the right to audit your shop for freaking batteries, capacitors and stuff. It's hilarious. Order a resistor and get audits by a Chinese resistor manufacturer, right? So welcome everyone, by the way. So Apple also requires repair shops in the program to share information about the customers. So yeah, Apple of the privacy. So there you have it. Apple once and for all, let's repeat it, after they sold me a thermally throttling 600 megahertz iBook with GPU desoldering, or maybe it's not anyway. After previous video, nearly every second of our Macs had some manufacturing defect of thermal throttling, of failing components prematurely because thermal throttling, of plastic breaking, polycarbonate plastic case breaking. It was swapped 2 times. The iBooks also had the feeds plastic rubber stuff falling off for nearly everyone. Probably also cracks in the case, I guess. The Mac Pro, our super expensive Mac Pro, didn't receive 32-bit EFI BIOS, so never received a BIOS update. So even the 2.5 years later, you couldn't get the latest Mac OS because, except if you open source tool boot 132 or 123, something of EFI 64-bit wrapper off because Apple couldn't support 64-bit. And all the others. So not making this up, even the Mac Pro power supply failed. In the warranty period, Apple swapped it, but still the freaking power supply failed off a G5 tower, G-Squared stuff. So it's not like they are known for the most outstanding quality component and not thermal throttling, but they of all people want to search the swaps for parts and collect the information. So even as a developer, I said this before, even as a developer, software developer in the App Store, we do not get customer data, which actually I really would like to have, not because I like to gather customer data. I'm one of those who says data privacy and stuff, but even as a software provider, we cannot provide information like now. Apple, previous video, Apple did not allow our update for not showing a safe S dialog. The usual App Store human interface design guidelines of, you can't save a file without presenting a safe S dialog to the user. Then we can't ship an update to our users, and we can't even notify them, right? You can't even freaking edit your App Store listing, right? If it's once approved, it's set in stone, and you can only change a promotional text, maybe the most people don't even see and stuff. So you have no means to communicate to customers, hey, Houston, we have a problem, we can't update this, maybe load it from our website or other stuff, which you could argue, this is some spam stuff, but on the other hand, this is professional software, and you are the vendor, you sold it to the user, and you can't even inform them. So many users are frustrated, like, why do you not inform us? Like, we don't even have your name, we only see yesterday sold 3, not like on Tilly brought us something. So we as a software provider give 30%, lose everything, and all ways of communicating with the users. And Apple, of all people, wants all the information from each repair. So it's like so much to Apple as your friend and totally pro-privacy, right? Share information about their customers at Apple's request, including names, phone numbers, and home addresses. I mean, what gives Apple, a supplier of freaking components, the right to get the name, phone number, and home address of people? And it sounds like maybe all, not even of people who receive genuine Apple parts, but all their customers. Like, what the heck, for delivering freaking components? According to multiple individuals with knowledge to the program business receive this contract after signing a non-disclosure agreement with Apple's, like, the usual Apple move, like, first non-disclosure agreement, then shady contract. And I said this before in my previous App Store videos, notarization bullshit and other crappy stuff also, drop frames because so much to that. Can't even test enough, sorry for that. Failing Silicon Valley companies of Google fame. And then you can't even speak about this, similar to what I said in the previous video, that even we each, as a software vendor, we each quarter or sometimes even each month just the other month I had to click on accepting the bloody terms and conditions. We only distribute software and we need to constantly accept new terms and conditions, and even if you don't like it the first time, you never can argue with Apple or Google like, hey, we don't like the sentence, we don't like this paragraph, this is unacceptable, we scratch it. With each other company, like business to business, you talk about some contracts, like, you know what, this term I don't like, this is unacceptable, we either need to change it or we can't work together. You can't do this with Apple, Google, Microsoft and Oracle and Red Hat and stuff. Either you accept this garbage or you don't. It's like you can't, like, I order components, but we scratch the sentence of you get all our information, which is certainly hilarious, right? And if you were wondering, why do I spread this word? Not for the clickbait, not for this, just to educate people that Apple is not your friend. Apple is not your friend for selling you a $699 or so, oh, $6,999, freaking overpriced Mac Pro with components of yesteryear, of Radeon RX 580 fame and Intel Xeon of whatever, that you can build for a fraction of the price, certainly if you take more modern components. Anyway, Apple is not your friend for overselling you an overpriced high-resolution display stuff that it might be okay-ish for its price, but nobody asked for it. So the only Apple displays, like, yeah, you take this display or none. And also thermal throttling MacBooks, right? It's not like you have an option of more performant Macs or something, or whatever, of failing keyboards for. It's like Apple loves you so much, they sell you the same failing butterfly keyboards for 3 years, even when they already know they are broken. They still sell them to you. And also mixing this here with certainly our own hardware, although not professional repair business, but certainly we are into hardware, and I would like to just fix the stuff myself, right? My rubber, this rubber coating there on the Retina MacBook Pro is dissolving and falling apart. I would love to order this plastic stuff. Of course, at Apple, if Apple only fixes my display for, what is a Retina display, 700 euro, 600 euro, when only I need the rubber band there that is falling apart after 6 years. And similar stuff, or batteries, like, anyway. So to finish this here file, so what else is here Apple certified? So while business that wish to join the program must be Apple certified too, they are required to display a prominence. So you need to be still Apple certified of having some garbage training of removing a screw and putting it back together again, or some garbage certificate. Required to display a prominent and easily be read to notice that both on their storefront and website informing customers that they are not Apple authorized, although they're Apple certified. Furthermore, must express written acknowledgement from customers showing they understand that they are not receiving repairs from an authorized service provider, although they are certified, and understand that they are receiving parts from an authorized service provider, which is the right to repair advocate in the US. Something is like going to a normal repair shop, except that on that advertises against itself at every possible moment. Yeah, like having tires changed on your car and like signing like you are hereby acknowledging you do not receive car tires approved by or manufactured by the car vendors. Like, seriously, what the heck? And we're talking components here, right? Receiving components and having all, but this is not all. Of course, additionally, also states that repair business needs to obtain a written consent from their customers, acknowledging that Apple won't warranty the repair. So yeah, you need to sign. You need to sign this. You need to sign that. You need to sign. So you get a repair like a battery swap. Like, sign here that this is not an Apple authorized service provider. Sign here that Apple will not warranty this. It's like, seriously, what the heck? You can sell components, or you can sell components so that nobody wants to buy the components from you, right? And of course, the way this is set up is like totally, Apple does not want to sell this. They do not want people to use it. Certainly, it makes no sense for a repair business to use it. And it's clear to me that this is like a facade of having some paper for the government there of like, hey, we are selling parts. It's like, it's not like our fault that they don't want to buy the parts at fair and reasonable conditions of like, yes, totally fair and reasonable conditions here, right? Beside being overcharged and certainly super expensive. But nuts and bolts of a program in a copy and so on indicates that they will allow business partners to return. Yeah, also like in another section, Apple also disavows warranties unless otherwise specified in the independence. Yeah, so even the return is a little bit shady apparently, maybe 90 days return or first use of box or not. It's a little bit, yeah, whatever, a little bit shady. It's like, yeah, means they certainly know their thermal throttling and garbage batteries and stuff. Apple did not respond to the request for clarification. Yeah, no surprise there. While the contract raises questions about whether Apple will stand behind its own products when sold through independent repair shops, businesses involved in the program also require to stay away from so-called prohibited products. So you order some components, right? I mean, Apple will still not sell you everything for sure. Even then, Apple will not sell you Zeal, or what this was, Interzeal charging circuit, integrated circuit, or other components. Like for sure, Apple. I'm speculating here, but I'm guessing they will only sell you parts that an authorized service provider would receive, like whole logic boards or batteries. Certainly not certainly not independent components like connectors or Interzeal charging, integrated charging circuits or other. I'm speculating here, but would surprise me if Apple would sell you like an SSD, or certainly like also the problem new here back in the days, this was some fine 44 pin or something IDE, parallel IDE connector, because this is my go-to camera board here that's like already broken enough to example for example purposes only. So the new boards of course have soldered SSDs that you can't swap, and even if you would swap them, which so normally does, because they are as soldered as those memory. Is it memory? Most likely this is, I guess, memory. It was probably maybe half of the memory, yeah, I guess. Certainly it's memory, whatever it is, certainly memory. So new illustration purposes only, the new logic boards look similar, just like Intel, not PowerPC, and latest and greatest, well, late last year's and not greatest, but so this is how the flash looks on, similar to this on new latest and not greatest Apple MacBooks, and it's not socketed, right? Like socketed like this or this or this. So there is no way for you or Apple to swap the, well, except hot air and so on. And the saying is the latest and not greatest flash is married to the T2 security chip. So even if you do go through all the pain of hot air soldering this, also previous videos or Louis Rossmann, then good luck soldering multiple of this integrated circuit so that they also have perfect contact and work after this. But allegedly maybe they are married to the T2 chip for encryption, or maybe they need special Apple Snowflake factory resetting programming to actually accept crypto key goodness. So last but not least, according to the contacts, this includes counterfeit products and or service parts, as well as products or service parts that infringe Apple's intellectual property. So this means if you sign to this garbage program and you have another source for the Interzeal 1963 or whatever, that was charging circuit, which also, by the way, fun pro tip, allegedly the same charging circuit that you can't get for your MacBook logic board repair is the same charging chip that is used in Apple's battery cases. So you can go, so you can't order the bloody integrated circuit, but you can buy a battery case for $69.99 or something, or $17.99, don't quote me on that, and you can disassemble the bloody battery charging case, get the Interzeal charging circuit out of the bloody external battery charging case and solder it to the MacBook logic board, right? I'm not sure. It sounds a little bit like Louis Rossmann has another source for that. Additionally, maybe he found a Chinese supplier. I'm not sure what or he means the charging case. I don't know. If you have further comments on that, leave them in the comments below. So if you sign up to this garbage program with all the hops and stuff there in between, you can't even source other components that Apple don't like. So this Interzeal charging chip that is proprietary and certainly considered counterfeit and not genuine or whatever, because Apple proprietary whatever, then yeah, you can't source, like you can't get this battery, or sometimes some customers don't want to pay so much for the battery and you have like an aftermarket battery. You cannot charge additional cheaper displays and batteries for customers who want cheaper displays and batteries because they don't have so much money and want a cheap repair because money. You can't do this anymore, right? Apple doesn't like it. It's like counterfeit and not genuine because then there goes your alternative source for this, or everything else you don't get from Apple, like maybe even like who logic boards like Louis Rossmann is doing for all those connectors or other fun stuff, that he's simply hot air desoldering from another donor board because they can't buy it anywhere, or cost is cheaper stuff. So certainly you're certainly for sure not allowed to buy from gray channels from China. They have fallen off from a truck or garbage can. The broken with holes donor boards or whatever stuff, most likely, I guess. In any case, you cannot source other alternative components. They previously and extensively reported here apparently clear definitions of what they consider counterfeit, which could already be an Apple logo. You buy an aftermarket battery and it has an Apple logo, so that multiple log cases already where people have had their third-party batteries sized by customs. Also, I heard some people had sent genuine displays, like broken displays where only the front glass was broken, like in packs of 50 or 100 to China or Taiwan, Thailand, Malaysia, or wherever where labor is cheaper, and people hot air the display off and glue there with relatively clean room, glue their new glass on the digitizer or a new digitizer on the panel to save, or to have like a genuine display quality with a new digitizer or new front glass and stuff. And they had this sized by customs because this was obviously, it had original Apple imprint of, hey, this is an Apple part, because it was an original display. But with a new front glass layer. So huge problems. It always sounds so easy, like counterfeit. And then people do like quality repair as in only swapping the glass, and they have their stuff sized by customs because the genuine base part has an Apple logo, and then it's like counterfeit because you do not have the rights to import stuff, like re-import. It's even your own repaired stuff that you can't import because customs are sizing this. So a lot of problems, ambiguities, and it's certainly not as easy as black and white. And also subjective, potentially very broad definitions. Says there is some law professor, Case Western Reserve University. As a result, it gives Apple a lot of leverage over their companies that sign this agreement. No shit, Sherlock. If independent repair learns or suspects that it has prohibited products in the inventory, the contract reads, independent repair provider will notify Apple, remove the prohibited product listings, and discontinue use of the sales of the, so if you discover that something, you should report. So it means certainly you can't not order this to start with. Business that will discover prohibited products, they will also assist Apple in investigating of such. If you discover this, you even have to help them to investigate where it came from or whatever. Send these products to Apple at the independent repair provider's expense. Yes, you lose your money for some products that are not genuine. It's all like hilarious. For secure destruction and recycling. So much to how green is Apple, how much they support like reuse and continued use of their products. For secure destruction and recycling. Not really. And contract also grants Apple broad latitude of surveil their businesses in order to, surveil the repair businesses in order to ensure their compliance with the terms, and participating repair shops must allow Apple to audit their factories at any time, including normal business hours, where it's like I would be more worried about nighttime and weekends, but according to the contract, Apple may continue conducting audits which can involve interviewing the repair shop employees for 5 years following the freaking termination of the contract. I mentioned this in the beginning already. Totally hilarious. So you order components and you give all the customer info, you give all the rights of having alternative components. You need to agree to surveillance at any time that Apple finds convenient to them. interview the Shore employees as if they have nothing better to do. We're speaking freaking components. Like we're not talking about stealing source code or schematics. We are talking ordering freaking replacement components. That, in my opinion, it should also be just like on cars, where you can order third-party oil filters and third-party brakes, and certainly many people who are enthusiasts have swapped their brakes, most likely maybe even to higher performance brakes. Like maybe some batteries also better, maybe some flash is also better than Apple's garbage flash or like next year's flash. And so like it's not like high performance ceramic brakes are not better or stuff, and or tune their engine and some more guessed it. Anyway, and this is exactly why on this channel I'm not doing this for fun. I'm genuinely disgusted by Apple, not only by the App Store and how they treat us as a development and cash in 30%, which is certainly quite a lot. You sell 100,000, you give 30,000, 30 freaking thousand dollar or euro to Apple. It's like rather have a new employee for that and have new web servers and more modern deployment and whatever. Certainly not buying a 7,000 euro Mac Pro that has a performance of a 1,000 euro AMD Ryzen build from yesteryear. This is why we built this freaking AMD 1350X from which we are streaming. Certainly not overpaying for a cheese grater that soon doesn't receive updates anymore. Certainly thermal throttling and so on and so forth. The audits go beyond Apple's dropping in on business to interrogate workers. The contract requires that IRPs, independent repair providers or something, maintains an electronic service database and or written documentation of customer information to assist Apple in its investigations. According to, of course, the more data they have, the better apparently. So much to general data protection stuff and Apple caring about your privacy. It's all about the privacy in iOS, except when you go to an independent repair. According to the contract, the database must include the name, phone numbers, emails, physical address of customers, stipulations that gave serious misgivings. As he noted, some customers may prefer an independent repair shop in part to reduce the data Apple maintains about them, like think private, like IT people, security people and stuff, not wanting their stuff tracked, or investigators, lawyers, so many valid reasons not to have your stuff registered and tracked for business acquiring, and like governments acquiring data, and don't need to be Snowden. So it's enough to be a lawyer or a judge or stuff where probably so many, or a politician, and also many reasons you probably want to maybe a little bit more private connections there to your IT parts that you order and repair somewhere. So Apple can also impose service penalties on repair businesses if the audit turns up anything amiss. If Apple determines that more than 2% of the 2% of the repair business transactions involve prohibited products, it can, per the contract, force the business to pay Apple $1,000 for each transaction that occurs. I mean, each transaction, right? Swap a battery for $39 or for $59, or doesn't matter. $1,000 fine. Even a screen swap or logic board repair, certainly not even $1,000, but $1,000 fine for each transaction where you probably peeled out an Interseal charging circuit out of your independent third-party Apple original battery case. In addition of reimbursing Apple for the cost of the investigation, on top of the freaking penalty, you can even pay Apple's lawyers and private investigators for their time investigating, harassing, and wasting your time in your business. Totally, it's like, seriously, it's like, I have no words, and I can only, we are bringing our business elsewhere. We mostly out of the App Store, have a Windows version, Linux version, do a YouTube channel because I want as little to do as possible with this freaking not your friend company. Senior staff there, attorney at EFF, Electronic Frontier Foundation, who reviewed the contract, said the conditions struck her as very onerous. They give Apple a huge amount of discretion, impose penalties, impose potential business destroying costs and penalties on the repair shop, and require that they grant access to Apple without notice. Walsh wrote in an email that added that Apple is notorious for interpreting its intellectual property rights very broadly. Like it's a logo on a battery or display, even if you have it refurbished, just the front glass swapped. That is then you can't import it again because Apple logo, citing the time it sued Samsung for rounded corners on several rounded corners. Don't get me started on that. Anyway, if you sign up to this agreement, Watch continued, then you repair non-Apple devices at your peril. Yeah, this is also here. If you sign up to the good point, right? So if you sign up to this, then Apple might even consider rounded Samsung smartphones infringing. So yeah, infringing on Apple stuff. Can't even repair Samsung smartphones maybe anymore, or because infringing on their design and stuff. Anyway, they agree that they can't believe anyone would even sign up to this. This is crazy, they added, and yeah, that's probably all. It goes on here a little bit more. There's probably more crazy details that makes this strong. Also here, right now we have some drop frames. Can't make this up. So this is really set. I tested already a lot with this live streaming. It's really set that we have here some congestion, probably at YouTube or Vodafone Germany. Certainly, probably most likely not at us. Anyway, I hope you learned something and found this interesting. I find this totally ridiculous and hilarious. I want nothing to do with them, which is also why I already have another phone. I already have a self-built PC, and I'm enjoying my free and happy life on the desktop Linux bandwagon here again. Totally not recommended. This company business practices are disgusting. I don't want to be a user at them, and they certainly they claim to be the privacy company, which certainly they aren't, even collecting in data at independent repair shops, or at least allegedly they try to. So yeah, several repair shops said they would never join this program of this onerous terms, said that they simply valued the opportunity to get parts directly from the manufacturer, while price of those parts are likely to be higher than the refurbished or aftermarket parts. That people will use an uniquely qualified to handle things that don't make Apple any money, keeps the battery repairs out of the Apple stores, and hopefully make a little money too. Don't think this bet is massive negative. That's something for me would be welcome, because I know everything in our house we are selling is fine, of something, whatever. They reached out to Apple for the story in detailed list of questions, including questions something while Apple declined to answer the specific questions on record. They did not dispute the accuracy of any of those contracted terms they raised, and Apple is committed to giving their customers more options, locations for safe and reliable. Yeah, each independent, and you at home can swap your car brakes, but don't swap your freaking car battery. Somehow wish even the Samsung stuff would have been a swappable battery. Also, Samsung stuff not perfect. I wish they would have screws and not hairs open for battery replacement, but somehow can't have the cake and eat it too. And Apple plans to launch a program that offers parts and diagnostic tools to independent repair shops. Was first reported earlier, nearly a year ago, and yeah, the program is apparently allegedly total garbage. As we see here, if these terms are as this, I mean, it doesn't surprise me. Most likely the terms are like this, because it's exactly what I would expect from Apple. But even as the repair community cheered Apple's move, some were skeptical for its intentions. And yeah, there you have it. In case you were wondering, apparently, allegedly, according to this reporting. And yeah, that's it for today. I hope you learned something. Like Darth Vader, they can alter the deal, and you can only pray they don't alter it any further, they said. And yeah, the same here, like with our last note from our software perspective. The other day I got notarization. So not only do I really hate this notarization garbage, you often even 5 or 10 minutes delay is too long. When our job is to send even improved versions of our software to customers, and each time you send something, so not only you develop and test and stuff for hours, and then you finally want to send it to the customer, and then it has this round trip of sending it to Apple, waiting for the notarization, and then even like 2 times if you want to have the software and the disk image notarized, then you send it 2 times to Apple for this freaky notarization, that for little to no benefit of snake oil antivirus like garbage. and then it's already like 10 or 15 minutes, right? You are finally done, you want to send it to the customer, then what do? So 15 minutes maybe of potentially, if you have small software, I heard of some people in the comments left, they have like gigabyte, then you need to send a gigabyte to Apple and wait for the notarization. Our software is only some 20 megabyte or so. And even this 10 to 15 minutes, if you are lucky and it's not out, there's not an outage, like it was already for us. So this is totally annoying. So you have like 15 minutes of, even if you automate this, you're a huge fan of automation here on this channel. And then what do? You want to send it to the customer. So either you start a new task that you need to interrupt, and you probably know if you're interrupted some 10, 15, 20 minutes to get into the new task. So if you start some new things, then you need to remember, wait a second, the reminder, you still need to send the non-notarized, digitally signed garbage to your customer. Or you make a coffee, you walk around the block, you get some fresh air or go to the toilet, which anyway, like I would rather prefer to finally send the software to my customer. And last but not least, not only does it sometimes have outages, sometimes it took like 12 or 14 hours to notarize our software. The other day, I got an error. I probably have a screenshot, maybe I make a dedicated video. You want to digitally sign it and you get the error, like API error or something error. You need to sign the latest contract. So I had to, so the error is like, you need to sign the new contract of this amazing license terms. And this was, I didn't even see a contract. So the only contract that was new in this bloody App Connect iTunes or no App Store Connect stuff was for paid distribution in the App Store. So I had to agree to freaking new terms of App Store distribution in the freaking App Store for having the non-App Store version notarized. So why do I need, so we still need to agree to the App Store paid distribution terms, although we notarize it for non-App Store distribution. It's like, yeah, and so much to yeah. If you were wondering, you still need to agree to Apple's freaking paid application distribution terms, or even though you distribute it yourself and you get API errors because, hey, you need to sign the latest and greatest freaking end user license agreement or developer user license agreement. It's like, and there you see, and why do we, this is the same as if this would be Microsoft in the 90s. There were so many huge outcries, 90s and 2000s, of Microsoft shady business practices and forcing developers and this and that. And Apple is so much worse now, and Microsoft people would have complained so much more if it would be Microsoft, but Apple is a friend of the users and whatever, so it's okay and it's for the user. And this also means you can't even bring your own compiler, right? The App Store notarization stuff is signed with some freaking XML file and stuff, and Apple will not sign this if it's not built with a new enough Xcode version. So you either need to fake it, so either you need to build it with Xcode or you need to fake it of having some XML file like, yeah, I'm Xcode, whatever, yes, let's go away. But why does Apple enforce what compiler and software development kits they use? So you cannot like bring your own compiler and Java runtime or whatever. If you could somehow combine it, but Apple is increasingly controlling even what software and frameworks you're using and compiler you're using to even build the stuff, which I also find like really, like, yeah, if you want a pure Rust application, it's like theoretically you would need to fake it and maybe last step process it with Xcode garbage to fake this enough to, yeah, I mean, just in case you wanted to have a full Rust or Go application of. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope you learned something. Leave me in the comments below what you think to this amazing terms. I certainly once signed, well, except all the end user license agreement, I once had a meeting at Apple when they wanted to buy me or something. Was there in a nice meeting room and have some NDA. Probably I should reread this freaking NDA. It's a couple of 6 years old or so in the meantime. Maybe I should actually read what I signed there, if I'm even allowed to publicly talk about such crazy stuff, maybe even. But anyway, I hope this has some expiry date. But in any case, I hope you learned something, and leave me in the comments below what you think to all this amazing or not so amazing contract details and stuff. Let's see. Comments as audience. Maybe we should take a final look. That's ridiculous, but unexpected from more than billion-dollar corporations. Very similar to Blizzard's Warcraft 3 terms. Yeah, welcome everyone. Sign away your moral and ethics and stuff. Yeah, welcome everyone. GPRs. Yeah, exactly. Except for the extent that any such waiver prohibited law would hereby waive the benefits of any provision law known as moral rights and similar such. So anyway, you have to also help. Yeah, exactly. Leave in the comments below what you think. Would you still buy stuff from such a company? I'm still surprised how many people's like, yeah, YOLO, whatever. I still love Apple because they are the white ones, or I don't know, actually white ones would mean, wait a second, if Apple are the white ones, then they are the troopers there of Star Wars. Anyway, I rather choose the rebellion side of that, not the Imperium, for this Darth Vader kind of whatever. As usual, leave in the comments below what you think of all the where the hardware and software is going, and if you would buy such stuff or not. And don't forget to share, like, and subscribe for more hardware and software video. Not shouting this out, but also more IT news. Theoretically, I have a couple of IT news on the more live channel, but I thought I'd discuss this instead of 1 minute in the IT news, one actually super long, because usually super long, 15 minutes discussion here probably. Leave me also in the comments below what you think in terms of the IT news, more live channel. Should I make it more brief or more single dedicated videos? Still not sure what is the best to spread some word of similar, not amazing IT news and security vulnerabilities there. And I hope to see you soon for all these fun discussions to come.